slow up. No, I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness.
Hi, everyone. Thanks a lot for tuning in to another discussion with an interesting guest on SaaS and MicroSaaS related information. Today's guest is a podcast veteran. He knows a lot about SaaS and he knows a lot about the most interesting topic we all indie hackers want, more like trying to woo the customers, marketing. So, without further ado, I'm introducing Roshan Karyappa, who pretty much is a known name. For few of them who do not know him, I would ask him to really share a few lines about himself, what he has done in the past. Over to you, Roshan. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Girish. I really appreciate it. So I've been a startup guy for about 16 years now across sales, product, and marketing. Marketing has been uh, a recent love story for me. I've only gotten to specialize in marketing about 8 years now. Right, but otherwise, I mean, I was pretty much all over the place, both as an operator and as a founder. Right, so it's been an interesting experience. I used to head marketing at Vimo previously. Joined the company in 2017 when we were about a million or so thereabouts in revenue, and was on this rocket ship. Saw a couple of rounds of funding. Our revenue grew 20 times and so on. And recently, I've joined a fintech startup called Money, which is pretty early stage. So lots of work, lots of fun, and rediscovering my passion for 0 to 1 and beyond.
Yeah, fantastic. So, this show is all about learning from the best. So, for us, you are the best because you have seen marketing, you have seen SaaS. So, how do you combine both, and why did you get interested in marketing? Because is it because you ventured into it, or is it something you found out like you're good at it? How did you explore that one part, as well as why SaaS? I mean, like, why are you most interested in SaaS?
So both marketing and SaaS happened quite accidentally, right? Like most things in my career so far. And that's been a recurring theme, I should say, right? So marketing for me, well, I mean, I do have a few of the intrinsics. I mean, I write fairly well. I am a creative person. I tend to think a lot about human psychology, why people do the things they do, so on and so forth. I read a lot about those things as well. So I sort of naturally gravitated towards marketing, but also the fact that, as a sales guy, you're having a lot of these one-to-one conversations, right? And marketing kind of allowed me to do this at a better scale, right? I mean, so you're doing a lot of these one-to-N conversations, right? And I found marketing to be a true force multiplier. So I kind of transitioned from sales to marketing that way. Um, SaaS again, as I mentioned, quite an accident for me, really. And I think of SaaS as a mode of delivery, right? I mean, SaaS was an inflection, and now we see that AI is an inflection, and God knows what else will happen in about 10 or 15 years' time, right? So I wouldn't get too hung up on the SaaS fact. Yes, there are nuances that matter. The fact that it's a transaction or a per user per month sort of a pricing. The fact that people have a greater ability to switch on, switch off things. The fact that there is a bit of a consumerization in B2B tech also, right? I mean, a lot of our marketing over the last 8 or 10 years has become sexier thanks to SaaS, I would say, right? So those things are meaningful, right? But otherwise, I mean, I kind of think of myself as a marketer, right? And SaaS is pretty much incidental, just as how fintech is incidental right now for me in my current role.
But so you are pursuing your interest, which is very clear, and it's so this prompts to the next question, where maybe you can just answer it as a differentiator factor. What is sales according to you, and what is marketing according to
Uh, See, sales and marketing, I mean, they differ in scale, I would say, primarily. Like I mentioned, when I was in sales, I mean, I was having all of these great conversations, but it was literally one to one, right? I mean, maybe if you speak to an audience, even, right? I mean, it's a very limited sort of set of people that you're talking to, but marketing kind of allows that scale for you, right? Like you have a web page or something of that sort. I mean, there is a near infinite reach to how many people you could potentially speak to, right, via that page or via an email or via a campaign as such, right? I mean, so there's a greater impact, I would say, on that front, right? But before all the salespeople, stab me in the comments, right? I mean, I think that for most marketers, you have to fundamentally understand sales. Okay. And I don't just mean that, once or early in your career, but I mean that periodically, I think you need to understand what it takes to sell your product. Right. I mean, I routinely have a lot of sales conversations as well. And it's supremely valuable for me to kind of abstract the problem statement, abstract the value proposition, and so on and so forth, and kind of map it to a wider set of people, right, from customers to market, basically. And so that is really the fundamental difference that I see. But otherwise, I mean, I think that, look, we are both trying to convince customers, persuade them about your product in a different sort of a method, right? I mean, a different way or means, I would say, right? So that is like a mutual overlap, I think, between sales and marketing, which one can't escape for sure, right? So yeah.
Got it. And in the current age, do you feel like an individual has to build their own brand online so that it helps their distribution? Because when we are building a product and doing SaaS, or you are in a particular domain, even though you're a marketer or a salesperson, do you have to build a brand so that it becomes easy to really get the approach of even individuals out there as customers?
I certainly think having a personal brand, opens a lot of doors for you. It has for me, in a limited way, in the sense that, I have the podcast, and so on, right? So, and I post, if not on LinkedIn, I mean, on Twitter, I'm fairly regular, right? So, having a personal brand makes some of these cold reach outs a lot more easier. Definitely adds to credibility, I would say, right? But you have to focus on what you want to be known for. I do feel that the average person on social media kind of is all over the place, right? If I were to ask who Girish is, it should be like a single, unambiguous, almost unanimous answer in terms of who Girish is, right, and what is he known for. But if you're going to just like optimize for engagement per se, right? I mean, you could be known for a wide variety of things. I mean, today you could be talking about AI, and tomorrow you could be talking about something else, right? And that one single recall is not there. So I would say personal brand is extremely essential, but you also have to be sincere and authentic. You need to find your voice. You need to figure what you want to be known for and how that's probably going to help you. Okay. Now that probably going to help you. You may not be able to connect all of the dots when you're starting initially, but then I think it's important to have that at the back of your mind, so that it kind of influences and informs you in terms of the kind of content that you put out. So yeah, in short, personal brand is absolutely essential. Everyone should be on social media. Everyone should post. Everyone should have a podcast, and do all of those things. Yeah.
Fantastic. And what are the top three metrics a founder or a creator should have on their list when they are marketing on different distribution channels? Three metrics or two metrics, whatever.
See, I think it depends in terms of like what stage of the journey you are. I think initially I would just look at, am I able to reach the right audience? Right. So I may only have about 20 likes on a post, but then is 50% of the people that I want to reach out to, in that 20%, in that 20 likes, right? I mean, that would be really important for me. That's an important metric, I would say. The second is, am I able to like provoke conversation? Am I able to seed information sufficiently that provokes, curiosity, enthusiasm, interest, those kind of things, I would say. Am I able to create engagement? And finally, the third I would say is, am I getting some leads and opportunities for my business or my product or something that I'm doing, that has a sort of a, I won't even say like a revenue component to it, right? But just that is helping me, right? The problem is, I mean, if you start from the third thing, which is the leads and opportunities, you will miss out the first two, which is the right reach and the engagement, which is kind of a necessary component to actually achieving that end goal of leads and opportunities. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I think those were the metrics that I would optimize for.
Okay, that's good to hear. And how much of AI can we pull in? Are you really seeing that AI will do a lot of things for us? Because it's almost a question which I should never ask because it should be considered within the plan, strategy, whatever is there. What do you make out of AI in the coming days, and what do you see it helping the marketing and sales individual in a particular manner?
Look, I used to be an AI skeptic even about like 3.5 months back. Okay. And I thought it was all hype. But the last couple of months, given that I'm severely constrained for time, effort, and resources at this point of time in my current role at an early stage startup, I invested a lot in understanding AI and how it can potentially help me. And it's completely transformed the way I work. Okay. Whether it is ChatGPT or Perplexity or some of the other stuff that I'm evaluating at this point of time, hopefully, which I can talk about maybe a couple of weeks or a couple of months later, depending. Right? I think AI is a complete game changer, right? From being able to write stuff to research stuff to everything else, right? I think you have to kind of consider modern work as person plus AI at this point, right? So yeah, I'm a big fan for sure.
And do you feel like having side projects, some initiatives, or other things like how you do podcast? It's not about brand building, but having a side project for a person who is thinking of diving into creating or building a product would definitely help him shape that thought process who is getting into building a product as an indie hacker or a creator.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, look, all of these side projects take on a life of their own, right? Once you invest in them. I mean, not all of us can start the next Google or the next Meta or the next WhatsApp or what have you, I mean, or the next OpenAI. But all of these start from the kernel of an idea, and a lot of these start as a project, then move on to become something of a side gig, and then before it eventually turns into something significant, right? So I don't think we should underestimate how important some of these so-called like side gigs are, right? The second thing is, I think it's important to have diverse interests in life, right? You should not over-index on one thing alone, and not get your kicks from just that one thing by itself. I think it's helpful to have multiple interests, multiple passions, multiple sort of side gigs and so on, as you call it, right? That it makes you a better person for sure. I know there are plenty of things that I've learned on the podcasting front that makes me a better marketer, and vice versa, right? So I would say these things are very, very important, and especially in the world that we're living in right now, they could also be a lot of leverage for you, right? I mean, because you know who knows what the world is going to come to in like a few years, right? I mean, we don't really understand that. I think you have to shoot your shot, and you have to take these chances, and not wait for like our parents or their parents did, for retirement or whatever, to kind of indulge in some of these things, right? So yeah, you should take your hobbies and passions really seriously, I would say.
Got it. I know we are running short of time. I'll just end with last two, three questions.
Sure.
Since you have shared information more about focused on marketing and other things, this is much more personal. Anything coming up in the podcast in the next few days, which are much more niche, or you are planning anything and operator startup?
Yeah, so I just published this episode with the founders of Triple S Defense, which is perhaps the only 100% indigenous, rifle manufacturer in India.
Wow.
Okay. And these guys are fantastic, absolutely amazing. Please check out, the startup operator, or you could check out my LinkedIn for, the episode links. So I'm really, really, really thrilled about the episode. I think more people should definitely know about them and how they're building. More people should build, I mean, because listening to this is very inspiring as well. So the focus of the podcast at this point continues to be like deep tech manufacturing. I want to talk to people who are, building in the real world, like, tangible stuff. They're actually cutting metal, right, as they call it. So yeah, I mean, I'm really excited for those kind of conversations that are coming up. We're speaking to a few robotic startups, more defense startups, and so on. So I would appreciate anyone who has leads on that front. I mean, if you know founders or startups doing fantastic work, please do recommend these, and we'd love to feature them on the podcast. So
Yes,
that I feel is something that I'm really excited about. Yeah.
got it. Yeah, I can refer because I'm working in the same domain. Uh, Two books, what you would like to tell anyone, like go read it at the moment, or one book.
Okay, my most gifted book is Alchemy by Rory Sutherland. I think he's a genius. I think he's someone that everyone should absolutely listen to, because we live in what he calls the Newtonian world, right? And we need to get out of that sometimes to look at these non-linear ideas that don't make sense but are actually profitable. Right. So I think Rory Sutherland and his book Alchemy is a completely, um, I would say it's a must read for marketers or anyone in general. The other book, which is a little more philosophical, I would say, is Nassim Taleb's Skin in the Game,
Hmm.
and his Incerto series, basically. That is like it's a philosophical treatise, I would say. So it's more of, yeah, it's about probability, the role of probability in life, and decision making, right? What to trust, who to trust, so on and so forth. Um, I think it's fabulous. I mean, considering the amount of noise that we have today in the world, I think that is like really helpful. Yeah, that I would say. And third, which is bit underrated, I would say, but perhaps one of the better career books that I have read is How to Fail at Everything and Still Win Big. That's by Scott Adams, the founder of Dilbert, the cartoon Dilbert, if you're familiar. Yeah, right. Um, Along with that, McKinsey Way is another very good career book that I would recommend to anyone. Right, and of course, I mean, you can't not mention Atomic Habits by James Clear, for sure, right? So these are a few of those books that I feel like are fundamental, essential for people.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And anything else you want to share with the audience in generic, what you have seen in the current state, and for people who are building it out and sharing information, sharing knowledge, building a community for anyone who is out there doing creating things. Anything you want to just share with from yourself.
So first off, thanks for this opportunity, Girish. I really enjoyed this chat and loved speaking to your audience. I would say, look, I mean, we are at this rare moment in time in India. The world is going to open up, right? And we're going to look back in 20 years' time and think this was the greatest opportunity ever. Okay. There are very few precedences to what is happening right now, ever in history. Okay. So I would say there's a um, once in a lifetime opportunity for us to kind of build from India for the world. Right. I would say, like, that is it. Just go and build anything, right? It could be like a simple blog or a product or a micro SaaS or a community or a podcast or whatever it is. I think it is the time to build. It is India's movement, and it's going to be driven by a million small initiatives and endeavors, like what all of you will do. So yeah, don't underestimate that, I would say, right? And go on and build.
Yeah. So where can people reach out to you? Twitter or LinkedIn?
I'm available on both. On LinkedIn, I'm Roshan Karyappa, and on Twitter, I'm Karyappa as well. That's RoshanCariappa. You can find me on both these platforms. There is a namesake of mine. He's called Rohan Karyappa. I mean, he is a rapper. He's much cooler than I am. But yeah, yeah, people
I'll
often
mention it.
like find
I'll
one or the
mention.
other. So.
Thanks so much, Roshan, for spending this time with us. And I know like you have so much information to share. We'll be following your podcast, definitely learning from it, and wishing the best to whatever you do. And hope we get a chance to talk to you again in the days ahead.
Thanks so much, Girish. I really appreciate it, and have a wonderful day, guys.
Thanks. Thanks.